The purpose of Freethought Forum is to be vigilant to the encroachment of religion into government and to educate the general public as to what a freethinker is.
My thoughts give me power.
No scholar can map them.
No hunter can trap them. No person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. No person can deny.
Hello and welcome to Freethought Forum. I'm Catherine Fahringer, the producer of this show. And I'm also acting host. Since I couldn't rope anyone else into the job, I have taken over. I have with me today a young man who's going to tell us his story about the problem of being an atheist in a predominantly Christian milieu. He works for the state, and we are, as you know, supposed to have separation of church and state, but it's not working where he's working. So I want to welcome my friend Rick Geraci to the show, and he's going to tell you all about everything. Thanks, Rick, for coming.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
My pleasure. Now, could you, without, of course, revealing where you work, tell the circumstances that that brought you to this position that you're in right now, which is trying to get some...
Okay. Well, pretty much it all started at Christmas of last year. Okay, my department of work in this state institution where I work at, they decided they were going to hang up a nice little Christmas greeting from all of us in this department. So being a secular humanist, and seeing that that poster was going to reflect from all of us, I asked them really nicely if they would just leave it secular. You know, seeing that if they put something Christian message there, it infers that I agree with this. Mm-hmm. And they hewed and hawed about it a little bit, but they decided that, okay, they were going to do this for me. We all had a little vote. They said, we're going to put a nice little winter scene. We're going to have some hills, some trees, and Merry Christmas, snowflakes. And I said, wonderful. So I left and I come back and they had it up on the wall. And on this nice little scenery they had, there was a big church smack dab in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. Very large, complete with a large cross right on top of it.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I didn't think that was too secular of a message there. And they tried to justify it, saying, oh, no, it's just a scenery. There just happens to be a church there. You know, there just happens to be one in here.
Didn't have a temple there, or didn't have a...
Right, or they didn't happen to have a candy cane in it either.
Or a mosque or anything.
They just happened to have a church in the middle of it. So I, let them know my disapproval of this, but I got outvoted because, it's all predominantly theological people that work in my department. And I decided I was going to hang up a little poem of what Christmas means to me. So I found a wonderful little poem that celebrated the renewal of life, the return of the sun, life begins anew. And really well written on a piece of paper, real nice and neat. And I hung it up next to theirs. Well, I took off, did a few duties, came on back, it was gone. I didn't say nothing about it. I kind of expected it to happen. I really did. And so they had a little meeting afterwards, and they said, my supervisor, media supervisor, says, if anything's going to get hung on the wall, his prior approval. And I said, okay, what happened to mine? And he told me it wasn't neat enough for him. He needed it framed. Okay, well, let me mention that their picture was on butcher paper with torn edges with no frame on it. So I can live with his decision. Fine, I can live with that. I asked for its return so I could put at least a little frame around it. Well, he told me he tore it up and threw it away. So...
No, that's not nice.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It doesn't really show that Christian love and acceptance that they do preach. So he decided not. So at that point, I just threw my hands up and walked away, thinking, well, I ain't going to do nothing about it this year. Well, this year comes around, and we have little meetings between the upper management at this institution and the lower echelon employees, such as myself, in order to discuss things that might be causing disrespect and how to get along better with the upper management. My supervisor's upper management, I would expect. So I brought up the need for the place where I work to have a policy of religious acceptance, of accepting what people believe, and if one is allowed to hang what they believe is what Christmas means to them, then I would like to do the same. Well, I was shot down real quick by the directors of personnel out there. Real fast, they shot me down and said it's illegal for them to make any policy governing religious displays, anything at all. So they weren't even going to talk about it. They didn't want to hear nothing more about it. And I said, okay, fine. So since that was their standing, that they weren't going to make any policy governing it, I decided I was going to start expressing my beliefs. And I started wearing this cute little button here. It says I'm a friendly neighborhood atheist. And also I started wearing this t-shirt that basically says the same thing. You know, and there's nothing inflammatory about this. I don't think so. It doesn't say nothing about that theological people are dumb, that they don't make any sense. It just says that you can be an atheist and be friendly also.
Yeah.
And that's basically all it says.
We're people too.
Right, exactly. Which we need to be afforded the same rights and courtesy that us, well, me as an atheist, affords the Christian.
Right.
You know, if the Christians want to hoop and holler and say how great it is to be a Christian, wonderful. I'll even hoop and holler with them, as long as they let me hoop and holler about the joy of atheism, because there is an amount of joy in it.
Oh, it's joyful.
The freedom it gives you makes you feel wonderful. The chains are taken off, so to speak. Well, I must admit that I knew this wasn't going to go over very well. I knew that sooner or later somebody in a supervisory position or upper management was going to tell me, no, you can't do that. Which I expected it was. Guess what? It happened. They told me, no, you cannot wear that anymore. So I tried to ask if this was instigated by my immediate supervisor, and I asked them if this is governing all of us as a group. Are we all not allowed to wear Christian-orientated materials? Because a lot of my coworkers wear Jesus is the reason for the season t-shirts. They wear crucifixes. They have crosses in their ears. All types of little symbolisms. You know, a lot of little symbolisms they wear. He told me, no, just you. Yeah, just you. You cannot express your atheism.
He's saying to you that you don't have any rights under the Bill of Rights.
I agree. Yeah, he pretty much told me, no, you have no rights.
Because you're in the minority, and the Bill of Rights was precisely for that reason, to protect the minority from the majority.
Right. And what really is the kicker about it all, too, is he denies me the right to express my religious ideations, but at the same time, he participates in them himself. Every Ash Wednesday, he has the cross on his forehead, and he struts around on duty. He struts around and out there showing his religious affiliation, which I'm not allowed to.
Yeah. Well, I think in a public place that's state agency, that he does not. I don't think that's very nice. He can do that at his church. And
and you know, I'm no lawyer, but I see it as being illegal also, because he is singling out one particular thing to discriminate against and not another's expressions.
That's right.
So I didn't let it die there. I decided I was going to carry it on, and I went and filed a formal written complaint, which under the legal advice I've blacked out names of people and the organization. and pretty much all this says is the instance that happened where he denied me my right to express my religious views, and he did this in front of a lot of people too, and pointed me out, no, just you, in front of all these people. And I wrote it up saying that I believe this is being discriminatory against me. You know, he's not telling anybody else to take off their symbolisms, but he's telling me to take off mine.
Right.
And this day he did this, I wasn't wearing nothing atheistic or anything at all. I was nice and clean. I was dressed like today, except without the button. So I sent that into the personnel director, you know, seeing that it was a discriminatory practice, which I believe it is. Except I'm no lawyer, but that's what I feel it was. So I got a response from the head honcho out there. You know, I guess I could say superintendent without revealing where it's at.
Right.
The superintendent of this institution, he wrote me another little letter. Of course, I had to cross out everybody's names and all. and he stated in here, you know, that he understands where I'm coming from with this, and but he did not perceive this as a discriminatory act.
Oh, really?
He says there's no evidence of discrimination here.
Oh, you're joking.
He said that right in there. There was no evidence of discrimination. And, you know, I thought it was evident enough if the person sitting next to me is wearing a crucifix and I'm wearing my button, he tells me to take my button off and not his crucifix.
That couldn't be plainer, could it?
Could it? No, that's pretty blatant to me.
Yeah, but he can't spell it either.
So he put down here, he supports my rights to my belief, which they all tell me, we support your right to your belief, just keep it to yourself.
Just keep it to yourself.
Right, just keep it to yourself.
Pray out loud
we don't have
do
to.
all this stuff.
Basically what he's saying, so he said he does not consider references to atheism appropriate, and I don't know, I have to add that. Isn't appropriateness kind of relevant to a situation?
Yeah.
Right. So if referencing atheism is inappropriate, what's it say about the situation? Are they teaching the clients of our business here? Are they teaching that you can't be friendly and an atheist at the same time? Is it a theological type of government? you know, if in order to say it's inappropriate, then what is appropriate? Is theology appropriate?
Yeah.
That's what I got out of that.
Pushing this on the
So basically, he told me that professional staff that work out here perceive these as having high risk of affecting the clients adversely, and just plain out said, please refrain from wearing these slogans here where we work. Well, when he says please refrain from it, it sounds more like a question, or I wasn't sure if this was actual instruction or if it was just a request. So I wrote him another letter back. I don't have a copy of it. I lost it. But I wrote him another letter back asking for some clarification. Is this instruction or is it just a request? If it's instructions, I'll honor his decision since he is the big man out there. But I would like some assurance that it's going to cover everybody and not just me, because I'm an atheist. No more than any ruling should cover anybody just because they're a different race.
Right.
You know, other than right.
Mm-hmm.
If one is allowed, then all should be allowed. If one is denied, then all should be denied. It should be an arbitrary thing across the board. So about 8-9 days went by. I received no reply, and I happened to catch the boss man. Got to ask him face to face. I said, "What's a reasonable amount of time from the time you receive some correspondence before I can expect an answer, before I consider it ignored?" He told me 10 working days. It's a reasonable amount of time. Well, now it's getting around 19 working days now, and I haven't received no reply. So I took that as he's told me straight out, I'm ignoring you. That's my thing of it. So I wrote him another letter, and I don't know if I'm going to get a response from this or either, but I pretty much stated that I'm taking this as being ignored, because he told me 10 days, it's now 19, I'm considering ignored. Fine, if he wants to ignore it, fine. It's his prerogative, I guess. But I must point out, though, since the time he banned my display, that I've noticed all these other displays. And I made a little log here. I listed them 1 through 10 of these little references to theology that I've seen out there. And of course, I couldn't put them all, or it would have been a list this deep, because they're very heavily out there, very much heavy. Very heavily out there.
Can you give us a few highlights off your list of 10?
Oh, sure. Like one of them is I got listed 2 employees out here that wear crucifixes on a daily basis. You know, displayed outside their clothing. They have it, you know, dead center in the middle.
Oh yeah.
And then the earrings and such. And then also on a door facing the main grounds, there's a large manger scene hanging there, and they're trying to justify it, saying, well, the clients put it up, and if they wanted to put it up, then that's fine. But I had to point out to him, though, a passerby kind of takes that as state endorsement.
Well, yeah, if it's a state facility, and I'm sure that other than the clients, there are people like me maybe would go out there sometime, and I would see this.
Yeah, and you may wonder if it was actually,
I would think,
the state bought this and hung it up.
Right.
It makes you wonder that. It sure does. So it mostly just inside these offices and stations, they're employee stations, no clients have access to them. There's many references. There's posters saying, thank you, Jesus, for everything you're doing. There's crosses on the walls. There's manger scenes, Christmas. There's tons of manger scenes out there. Tons of them. A few of my lists here, there's like 6 and 7 of them on one wall. There's one wall with like 6 or 7 different depictions of this manger scene.
Good heavens.
So I listed above, and then also let him know that I could not list every one, or he'd be reading forever. And so then I went on to say, well, this is what I believe. A lot of free-thinking people, a lot of atheists won't agree with this, but this is how I feel. That I have no desire to remove any references to theology, to God, to anything of that nature from the grounds, really, if that's what people want to do. That's what makes them feel good.
Well, yes, but
fine.
there's a little sticky wicket there.
It gives that impression of state. It does give the impression.
Property.
It does give the impression of state.
Public property immediately, if they put that kind of stuff all over it, the implication is that the state is forcing its religion on everybody. So that's not good. Now, if I think that if people wear things that are meaningful to them, you would think if they were all that meaningful, they would wear them next to their heart and under their clothes.
I agree. They wouldn't put a barrier between them.
They want it to hang out there where they've got crosses hanging off their ears and crosses around their necks, and it's. But that's a personal. If they came from home and that's their thing, okay. I can't see anything wrong with that, and I didn't buy their jewelry, and I certainly wouldn't have. Right. But the other things, I wonder about all of these displays. Who pays for these? Do you have figured manger scenes and things? You know,
there's one out there in a different section of this institution. This institution is pretty much divided in half, and they consider them two different entities.
Oh.
So in my division, no, there's no more than that one manger scene that I have mentioned. It's hanging on the door. But over on this other side, which is still state funded, still state run, there is those large cardboard cutouts of the manger scenes they put in the yards. There is one of those out there, yes.
Well, that's not right either, but they've got one of those at Fort Sam, right in front of Brooke General Hospital.
Yes,
whatever
they do.
It's called. And it has the ruling in 1984 by the Supreme Court was, I thought, a ludicrous one, but nevertheless, we must abide by it. The ruling was people could, things like that could be displayed on public property if they were not displayed alone. They must be in the company of secular objects such as candy canes and sleds and snowflakes and poinsettias and things like that. And I think that demeans, if the religion means so much to those people, you would think right away they wouldn't want Santa Claus and candy canes around their manger. How dreadful. But they do. They want to get that manger out there so bad they will put up with that. But this one at Fort Sam does not have that. Does yours have any of the other
some of the employees do hang up a lot of secular things out there
I'm
also.
talking about the manger scene itself.
The one that is out there on the other half of the state property, I believe, around it they do have a Santa Claus there and a candy cane.
Well, they must know something about the Constitution then.
Yeah, at least they might be following along with it. But the manger scene that's on our side, no, there's no candy canes. There's no Santa Clauses near it, anywhere
well,
near
try
it.
hanging one. We'll see what happens. You'll probably get hanged too.
Right. Well, I tried that, hanging that one, what it meant to me, and I figured speaking and getting
torn up, no frame.
Yeah.
And theirs was on butcher paper.
With torn edges too, not even very neatly done.
Oh, come
not
on,
very neatly done.
this is a farce.
I believe it is. I really do believe it is.
And they will stonewall you,
so
I'm sure.
I let them know that I'm a friendly guy. I can give just as much as I want to take. So if they want to hang this stuff up, then it's fine by me. I have no complaint. If 99% of them decided they were going to become a Christian and they were going to go around exclaiming the joys of Christianity, I have no problem with that. I might even get out there and hoop and holler with them, saying, I'm glad y'all believe in something so heartily. I'm glad that you want to hoop and holler. I revel in your ability to jump up and tell the world what you want to do. Fine, I might even do that. But at the same time, even as the 1%, I want to be able to express the joy of atheism also. Because like we had said before, there is a joy behind it. It is not just an empty belief or an empty feeling, oh, well, the universe is cold and that's all there is to it, so I'm cold. We wouldn't be here if it was like that. There is a joy to it. When we get together, our groups, and we have a great time. We revel in the, if you excuse the term, we revel in the brotherhood and all the same churchy terms that are used. You know, the fellowship. I mean, hey, we have our fellowships too, and it's wonderful, and we have a good time with it. And if they want to express theirs to the world and to the public, especially while on duty at a state institution and being permitted to, then I should be afforded the same rights.
I would
if I want
certainly
to jump
think
up and down and hoop and holler about how great it is to be an atheist, then they don't really have no business telling me, no, you can't. They really can't. Now, understand that in any large state institution, that they do have a certain right to limit free speech, but it must be done arbitrarily. It must be done across the board. Right? If they say no political statements, that includes political statements right along with, if someone wants to talk about Bush and someone wants to talk about old Clinton there, right? Well, we're allowed to talk about Clinton because we support him. We don't support Bush, so no, you cannot wear that. They cannot pick and choose what they want to cut off. But it's obvious that they are out here because not one word has been said to anybody about their Christian displays. And they've even been a few rules for the religionists, because one of the rules we have out there is no hats, no headgear of any kind. Us males, we cannot wear any headgear in the buildings or around them, which I can see as being a good ruling because we need to maintain an air of professionalism out there. So I can agree with that. But then they allowed this one employee out there to wear a turban on his head, and they justified it by saying it's part of his religious belief.
Oh, well, what about your religious or irreligious belief?
This is part of my religious belief. And I use religion as the basic definition of it. It's just a pursuit of something that I believe in. You know, so this is part of mine. I have no symbolisms to wear. I have slogans. And so if you're going to limit mine, then why not the other ones? But I must point out, too, that they only told me not to wear anything referencing atheism. They didn't say nothing else about it, but I still, their reaction to this scared me to wear most anything. You know, because I wanted to wear this shirt out there
that's a good
now
one.
too, because
there's certainly nothing wrong
there
with
is
that.
a chapel out there where we work, and it's supported by our tax dollars. It's paid for. They even have a Baptist minister, and they have a Catholic priest. Well, they have 2 Baptist ministers. One's a bilingual guy, and they're paid a paycheck. And then, not to mention all the support staff. They have secretaries, they have organ players, they have maintenance crews to keep up the grounds. They paint the buildings. It's all done with our tax money. So, and part of my job is to take these clients and bring them to church. You know, I'm supposed to go out and rile them up and get them wanting to go to church, and so they can go and praise the Lord. Well, fine. If that's part of my job, I'll do it. I'm not going to worship. I'm just going to do a job. But, you know, I had the idea of wearing this shirt here. But I didn't think it was going to go over too well. So now they put the fear in me of job security fear that, you know, if I can't express my religious belief, then I can't express my political beliefs also.
Right.
And so I feel a little bit
jeopardy.
singled out here. You know, I feel very singled out that
well,
I'm just...
I think I would too, and I think it's really rather dreadful if it comes to job loss. I know that you're certainly, you have some recourse there. This would be a terrible thing to have to take it to, and I hope that some sort of compromise can be worked out. And I don't mean a compromise where they can clutter up the whole place with stuff that the state pays for. I'm not in favor of that, but...
Not unless I can go and put in a request for them to pay for a large atheistic type display. You know, if they can pay for the Christian, they can pay for my atheism too. I don't believe in any of that, but I'm just figuratively speaking, if they're going to do that, then they should do this also.
That's right.
You know, it should go both ways.
One thing, that's why we should have separation of church and state, because you start that saying, well, if we're going to do this for them, then we have to do it for them. And well, there are a zillion and one, as you know, religious sects.
Exactly.
And so it would be impossible to have an even-handed approach to accommodating them. And the best way is just to be neutral to all of them and not try to get everybody into the picture. They won't fit. There are too many. The lens is too small.
There are too many. If everybody wanted to hang up what Christmas meant to them on this wall right here, that wall is not big enough to do it with. And then you get into the problem of, you know, who gets the biggest display, you know.
Yeah, and then all our time and money and energy and public money is being spent on things that are not part of the actual project or job or whatever.
Yeah, the goal of the place.
The main thrust of this institution or whatever it is. And so that's what's so bad about it is... why can't they be neutral? They somehow, the Christians seem to regard neutrality as hostility. Has nothing to do with being hostile. It means we're going to have, it's like having, what did they call it in war, when they had an area where it was the area where you didn't shoot.
Oh, yeah, the demilitarized,
demilitarized zone. Right, you have one place where no fair, you don't shoot. Well, that's like this. Government should have this area where we don't shoot at each other over this blasted religion because we simply don't mention it. We are doing the business of the state, and we're going to attend to that and not waste all our time praying and putting up religious symbols.
If the Christians wish to pursue their so-called battle between good and evil, it should be done before the work begins and after the work begins. Once that bell tolls that it's time to start working, that's when we put the guns down. Everybody put down your ammo, and we go and we strive to get one job done. We strive for a goal. We exceed that goal or whatever, and then after it's all over and we go outside those grounds, you want to start taking shots at me, then fine, take shots.
Yeah, off the grounds, but not on public property. Absolutely. Well, I had this, here is a book I picked up when I was at one of the many conventions I went to for Freethought Convention, and probably at a humanist one. It has a sort of humanistic look to it, I think. And I wish everybody could have one of these. It is so good, and it costs too much money for me to pay for one for everybody in this town. I'd like to give the mayor one for a starter.
Yeah, he
$9.
needs one.
But I don't think he'd read it because, as you know, the Freedom from Religion Foundation hung that Jefferson quote about the wall of separation between church and state. We actually got it hung. It's in City Hall, in the council offices area. And I don't think one person has read it. That's a Jefferson quote. They don't seem to have any respect for our country. They have the sort of the idea that, well, this is San Antonio and this is the way we do it. Well, hell, if we're going to be part of the United States, we've got to abide by the Constitution of the United States. And Maury Maverick, bless his darling heart, told me that in the Constitution, the Texas Constitution, I'm glad I thought of that, there, in a section, he said they're much harder on this business. They're much more for separation of church and state, and it's put much more succinctly than it is in the United States Constitution. So I ordered a copy of it, and it arrived yesterday. So I'm going to find that article and section, and I will let you know, so because you need to refer to that, and you need to put a copy of it on this guy's desk, or frame. Perhaps you could frame a copy of it. I ain't so keen on frames. All right.
Hang it next to her major.
Right, and hang that thing up there and say, this is the Texas Constitution. If you're going to run the state like Texas and ignore the U.S., here's what we had to say about religion in this state. And that would be good. That's one way to.
Which is basically just a matter of freedom, which, well, hence the name of this particular episode is freedom does depend on freethinkers. Even in this little situation I'm having, if whatever the outcome of this happens to be, if it becomes out in, well, the constitutional favor, which it should, I have a hard time trying to see how it can come out anywhere else, how they can stand up and say, no, we don't want no atheists out here. I don't see how that's going to happen. But there is no rulings out there in any of their operating procedures, in any of the rule books governing religious displays. There is none. I've combed every one of them. There is none out there. We really do need one to ensure the freedom of everybody. If the Buddhist wants to hang his Buddhist picture up there, then they need some kind of a ruling saying that the Christian cannot go and tear it down because he don't like it. You know, they need something to back them up, some kind of a policy. And if that policy happens, if it does materialize after the end of all of this, then I feel like I will help pave the way for every atheist, freethinker, agnostic, whoever that comes behind me that wants to express their ideas. You know, then I'm helping ensure that freedom.
Of course. So well, it's true. Free thinkers have been on the cutting edge of everything, every advance, every attempt to become civilized. And yet religions, churches will always take credit for it.
Well, they usually do. They usually do, but the actual freedom does depend on people like us.
Individuals.
It really does.
That free thought, it pushes it. It's sometimes hard. We sometimes get killed for our trouble and our belief in freedom.
That's true.
It's not quite that rough anymore, I hope.
We get singled out. We get pointed at. We get questioned as our integrity, our morals get questioned.
I know, they always think we're such wild, bad people.
Yeah, we're such bad people. But belief has nothing to do with morality. I really don't put those two together. I don't see how they fit. You know, just because you believe something, you're moral. Just because you don't, you aren't.
And besides, what kind of belief would it be, or morals would it be, if you thought that the only reason to be good was because somebody was going to punish you? I think that being good is reward in itself. It makes you feel good to be a decent person. It's ridiculous to depend on the punishment thing. Well, Rick, this is a wrap, so we will have to say goodbye from Freethought Forum, but it's been fun, and do come back next week.
I think as I please, and this gives me pleasure.
My conscience decrees, this right I must treasure.
My thoughts will not cater
to duke or dictator, no person can deny.